Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian in the southeast.
Your headlines this Friday evening. The row over plans for new eco-homes on the edge of Faversham, land owned by Prince Charles's estate. Locals call on the future monarch to listen to their concerns.
As somebody who's got really good eco credentials, he would be appalled if he knew how much land Kent is losing to development.
Drivers are warned of a year of delays on the M20 in Kent as work begins to move the Operation Brock barrier.
Keep moving around, everyone keep doing around.
Learning life-saving skills in the pool. But concerns tonight a generation of children in the southeast are missing out because of a shortage of swimming teachers.
Hello.
And Max's miraculous rescue after falling 100 feet from a cliff top at Seaford, how a packet of biscuits lured him to safety.
We've got loads of equipment for different situations, all eventualities, but it turned out it was some biscuits that saved the day.
Good evening. A royal row is brewing in a medieval market town in Kent about plans to build 2,500 homes on farmland owned by Prince Charles's Duchy of Cornwall estate.
The 300-acre site on the outskirts of Faversham has been earmarked for a new eco-town development. The estate says the sustainable community would provide much-needed homes and bring jobs to the area.
But a protest is planned for tomorrow as some locals call on the Prince to listen to their concerns. Well, they've been speaking to our reporter, Kit Bradshaw.
For Prince Charles, the Poundbury development in Dorset shows there's an alternative way to create new communities, one focused on traditional architecture and sustainable transport.
Right, cool.
Residents in Faversham are digesting the news that a similar-sized urban expansion could be coming to the southeast corner of their town in the near future, on land owned by the Prince's estate, the Duchy of Cornwall.
Building on farmland, that never comes back. It's made all the worse by the landowner being Prince Charles, as everybody knows. He's been saying for quite a while that we need food security, we need to protect our farms, help our farmers, and that seems to be at odds with somebody wanting to concrete over a farmland.
The proposals are still in development, with no formal planning application yet submitted. But these artists' impressions have been shared with locals at public meetings over recent months. If these plans ever get off the drawing board, all the farmland around me would be built on. And at 2,500 homes in total, it would see the size of Faversham increase by around a fifth. One campaign group formed in response to the plans is planning a march through the town centre tomorrow morning.
We don't feel that we should be building on prime agricultural land.
And if Prince Charles is watching Meridian tonight, what would be your message to him?
I'm not sure that he knows exactly what's going on here, and we would love to actually speak to him in person. I feel that as somebody who's got really good eco credentials, he would be appalled if he knew how much land Kent is losing.
Councillors are currently considering whether the Duchy development should form part of their next local plan.
We are facing, an imposed target from the government, which we consider to be excessive, and which we think we have major problems in delivering. It's not just Swale, it's the whole of Kent is being imposed with these new housing targets.
The Department for Housing says targets are a matter for councils, while the Duchy of Cornwall sent us this statement. Swale Borough Council identified the Duchy of Cornwall's land at South East Faversham as the most appropriate location for new homes and services for local people. South East Faversham will provide around 2,500 homes of all types, with a similar number of jobs in a highly sustainable community. For a town famed for its brewing heritage, this dispute provides a taste of the difficult decisions facing many local politicians as they try to balance the demand for new homes against the concerns of current residents. Kit Bradshaw, ITV News, Faversham.
In other news, a man who murdered two 9-year-old girls in Brighton and became known as the Babes in the Wood killer has died in prison. Russell Bishop killed Karen Hadaway and Nicola Fellows. Their bodies were found in woodland in Brighton's Wild Park in 1986. The 55-year-old was originally cleared of their murders at a trial in 1987 before he was eventually convicted and jailed for life 32 years later. It's reported he had cancer.
A former PE teacher from Kent has been jailed for 6 years for sexually abusing a child. 46-year-old Carly Deer was working as a PE teacher at Maidstone Grammar School for Girls when she groomed her victim over 15 years ago. She was arrested in 2018 after the victim reported the abuse. Drivers could face months of delays and disruption as work begins to move the Brock barrier on the M20 between Ashford and Maidstone. The concrete movable barrier was installed as part of Brexit measures to deal with potential traffic jams. Now, National Highways wants to move the barrier from the hard shoulder to the central reservation, but drivers are being warned of delays, as Tom Savidis now reports.
The Brock barrier is on the move. It's part of a contraflow system on the M20 to cope with potential delays across the channel. It spent most of its 1.5-year life on the hard shoulder. At the end of this month, work will start to move it to the central reservation, sparking fears of months of delays.
We need to see as little disruption as possible to the M20. So we're waiting for more details on the timings, but we want anything that causes the least amount of delays and congestion. As I said, that freight needs to be moving down this corridor to access Kent, but also to get into the EU.
The Brock barrier was initially installed in anticipation of a no-deal Brexit. There had been fears of major jams on the M20. That didn't materialise, but the barrier is being kept on the motorway for traffic management.
Overnight work between Junction 8 near Maidstone and Junction 9 near Ashford will begin at the end of this month. It's expected to continue until October. A 50-mile-per-hour speed limit will also be in place. National Highways told us storing the movable barrier on the M20 London-bound hard shoulder was only a temporary measure. We are about to start work to move it onto the central reservation, its permanent home, which will allow the hard shoulder between Ashford and Maidstone to be reinstated to its original width. Those who live along this stretch of the motorway are calling for other improvements to be carried out at the same time.
I welcome the safety work, but what I'd like them to do at the same time is deliver on their promise to resurface the M20 between Ashford and Maidstone. This was promised for financial year 2021-22, the current year, and they haven't yet indicated when they're going to start the work.
Those using the M20 over the next few months should prepare for a potential bumpy ride as the roadworks get underway. Tom Savidis, ITV News, Ashford.
5 drug dealers who supplied large quantities of cocaine across Kent have been jailed after the encrypted phone platform they used to communicate was infiltrated by police. Resulting searches of properties found one in Essex was being used as a drugs processing factory, whilst over £30,000 was seized from another property in Chatham. William Ferguson, Aaron Duff, Billy Robinson, Jed Sean Porter and Nathaniel Green were sentenced to a combined total of almost 50 years in prison. Gatwick is continuing its post-pandemic recovery with the announcement one of its airlines will operate 12 short-haul routes from the airport. Vueling will run new routes to 5 Spanish resorts. EasyJet, British Airways and others are also increasing their routes for the summer. Anglers in Dover have won their campaign to start fishing again from the Admiralty Pier. Dover Harbour Board closed the pier to the public during the pandemic, banning fishing from the Western Arm. The area has been used by locals for more than 100 years. They've welcomed the news, but fishing passes will have to be obtained. Now, there are concerns children are missing out on life-saving swimming lessons because of a shortage of swimming teachers, a particular problem here in the South East. Figures show swim schools across the country lost 50% of their staff during the pandemic, leaving long waiting lists for lessons. Now, to try to address this gap, the Swimming Teachers Association is offering to cover the cost of training new swim teachers, as Catherine Walker reports.
Learning to swim is an important and potentially life-saving skill. But a national shortage of teachers means this swimming pool in Smarden in Kent has a long waiting list for lessons.
We do have a large waiting list. I think, like statistically, I think there's about 600,000 children still waiting to get lessons because of the shortage of the teachers coming through. So yeah, I think it is a problem that's coming through. Getting teachers in during the days and afternoons, we find it very difficult to get staff to come in.
The latest survey shows that the industry is still reeling from the impact of multiple lockdowns. Swim schools across the country lost 50% of their staff during the pandemic. This teacher shortage means 83% of swim schools now have a waiting list for lessons.
Keen to address this gap, the Swimming Teachers Association have set up a new national programme, giving people the opportunity to train as a swimming teacher for free.
Yeah, medical, in case there's a medical emergency or there's something you need to know about medical.
The lessons start in the classroom with swimming theory. Then students like Izzy come poolside, ready to put their newfound skills into action.
We've been learning about safeguarding and what to do if a kid comes up to you and they need help and they don't know exactly what to say, and trying to teach them how to be better swimmers, but as well how to develop their personal skills. Right now we're doing hands-on experience with sort of teaching them how to swim.
Tutors like Beth say it's vital they recruit new teachers as soon as possible. She wants to make sure the next generation of swimmers don't get left behind.
We'd have loads and loads of children that couldn't swim, didn't pass the national curriculum. We'd have problems probably later down the line when they go out as teenagers near the canal, maybe fall in, they don't know what to do, so they're not being taught it. So having more teachers and get more people swimming would be perfect, really.
The swim teacher lessons will now be offered to hundreds of students across the country. The aim is to bolster teacher numbers and hopefully help the industry stay afloat. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Such vital work. Now, you're watching ITV News Meridian in the southeast. Stay with us for the happy tale of Max the Border Collie, who survived a dramatic cliff fall at Seaford.
Plus, we'll catch up with the classical singer who the Pope described as having the voice of an angel as she prepares to perform at Rochester Cathedral.
And a chilly sunrise in Kent this morning, but after a week of sub-zero temperatures, is there more freezing weather to come? Holly has the weekend forecast.
Let's hope there's not. And for more on all of our stories, you go to itv.com/Meridian. You can also give us a call. The number is always 0808 1010 095. And remember, you can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.
Now, last night we heard concerns from environmental campaigners that too many of us throw away furniture which could easily be reused or recycled instead. But there's work being done to mitigate the problem, including right here in the southeast.
Yes, whether it's making it easier to dismantle and transport flat pack furniture or making sure the furniture we have is more sustainable to start with. Well, with the second part of his investigation, here's James Webster.
Packing up to move house. Chances are this is the time you'll be more tempted than ever to ditch a piece of furniture, and often because it's too hard to move. A familiar story for David, who runs a removal firm in Ashford.
We normally try and give it a little bit of a push test when we first go up to it to see if it's going to collapse. If there is any movement, we will definitely take it apart, because halfway down the stairs it tends to fall apart. So that's our tip, is always take it apart where we can.
What has more lives? Is it A, Tibbles, or B, an IKEA sofa?
IKEA is one of the biggest suppliers of flat pack in the UK and is working on new ways to make its products more sustainable. The firm has previously shared disassembly instructions for things like wardrobes and bookcases, but now its stores are also buying back some items second-hand so they can be sold to other customers.
So I'm just going to try recreate this timber moulding and replicate the profile just to give it original look.
For Tibby Singh, whose DIY skills feature on programmes like Money for Nothing, anything that helps people see the value in their furniture is a good thing.
I guess it's been drilled into me, not just throwing things away and kind of being a bit more resourceful. Think beyond aesthetics and kind of invest in long-lasting designs, thinking about selecting sustainable materials.
Sustainability, making sure items in buildings stand the test of time, is now included in many interior design courses.
If we ask a student to specify a piece of furniture, we'll be thinking about how they use that now, but also, is that sustainably sourced? Is it from sustainable materials? Can that be dismantled? Can it be reused? Can you use that in a different space or reappropriate it? But also thinking about that time beyond the lifespan of the furniture or beyond the lifespan of the building.
But if your furniture really doesn't fit anymore, or your attempts to dismantle it have left it in need of serious repair, there are workshops like this looking for donations to upcycle and sell on.
It comes in the back into the workshop and we do the necessary work. Hopefully it finds its new home. If it's an antique, we like to sympathetically restore it wherever possible. Some items are past that, need a complete overhaul, maybe out of fashion, so we try and give them a new lease of life, renew them in some way. And there's more modern pieces of furniture that just need a bit of TLC.
So, even if an item has outstayed its welcome in one house, there may still be time for it to brighten up a new home. James Webster, ITV News.
I've learnt so much from those. There's so much you can do. Don't just take things to the tip. Brilliant
Absolutely.
ideas. I just need to learn DIY. That's the thing, though. Now, the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. For more, let's to London and Charlene White.
Schools across England shun government guidance to get rid of face masks in the classroom. Ministers are urging them to do so, but teachers argue they need to follow the COVID data, not just dates. Thousands are left out of pocket, some for years, because of an error in paying out state pensions. And tributes to the singer and film star Meat Loaf, who's died at the age of 74. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Next tonight, to a classical singer who Pope Francis described as having the voice of an angel.
Carly Paoli has also duetted with some amazing partners, such as Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli. Now she's about to go on tour with Aled Jones and will be heading to Rochester Cathedral in March. Natalie Bohr went to meet her.
The stars are brightly shining.
Carly, we're here at this beautiful cathedral and you're about to go on tour at cathedrals across our region. Is it different performing somewhere like that as opposed to on stage?
I think there's something very special about performing in cathedrals. I mean, it's where live music really started. It was to celebrate people's faith and a way to be able to commune and come together. So they are such absolutely stunning buildings and the acoustics in there are incredible. So it's a real gift for singers to be able to sing in these beautiful spaces.
And you're going on tour with Aled Jones. How did that come about?
Our friendship started when I first went on his television show, and for me it was my first time on TV here in the UK, so I was incredibly nervous. But he's so lovely and so talented, he put me at ease straight away. So it's a lovely full circle moment to be able to sing in these beautiful venues with him.
And you mentioned your new album and you've collaborated with some amazing artists, including Elaine Page.
Elaine and I first sang together at the Roman Forum, and that was a special concert to celebrate the Pope's Jubilee. So we sang I Know Him So Well, and we got on incredibly well, excuse the pun. And again, just coming to making this album, it was a labour of love through lockdown. And I found myself, like many artists, still wanting to be creative, and I reached out to friends, and I'm very honoured that Elaine Page was happy to join me on this special song, which is a celebration of rainbows, so a lovely message of hope after the time we've all been through.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows?
And Carly, you were on stage at the Royal Variety performance last year. Do you ever get nervous at events like that?
Of course I get nervous. Yeah, I do, because it means so much to you, you know, and it's such a blessing to wake up every day and do the thing you love most, but then of course you're incredibly passionate about what you do, and you always want to deliver your best performance.
Carly, thank you for talking to us and good luck with the tour.
Thank you very much.
Wow, quite amazing. How to sing like that.
Incredible, isn't it? Now, when Max the Border Collie fell more than 100 feet from a cliff in Seaford, nobody, not even the RNLI who was called out, thought he'd be alive.
Miraculously, the 6-year-old survived with the help of a packet of biscuits. And today, Max was reunited with the New Haven volunteers for the first time since he was brought to safety. James Dunham was there too.
Hello, how you doing? I'm James.
I'm
nice to
Janice.
meet you. Hi, John. Hello, Max.
Hello. Say thank you. Are you saying thank you?
In truth, Max had very little to say, but his owner Janice and Lydia, who was walking him, cannot thank James and John enough.
Hey, breaking the sets.
The lifeboats volunteers were involved in this dramatic rescue.
Hello, buddy.
Max ended up at the foot of the cliff after falling more than 100 feet into the water. Just look at that drop. It is incredible he survived.
We were just trying to get him, trying to see where he was, trying to get him back up to the beach side.
Your heart must have been beating pretty fast at this
There were
point.
moments where we couldn't see him in the water because it sort of overhung. So once your guys got there, they looked over the cliff and they were keeping an eye on him the whole time. Communication was coming back to us. It was amazing. So as soon as he got back onto the beach, it was a sigh of relief. And he was running around and like nothing could happen.
We all feared the worst, really. There was no way that a dog could fall that far and be okay. So when we turned up on scene and we could see Max was on the beach, he looked a little bit sheepish, but he was moving around. I think it sort of lifted spirits on the boat 100%, and we knew that it was all going to be fine.
Hey, mate. Hello, come on. Maxie.
Max isn't too keen on men. Luckily, there was something to lure him onto the lifeboat, a handful of leftover rich tea biscuits.
Hello, buddy. Max seemed quite nervous when he saw us. Wasn't sure. We're there in all our protective gear, our helmets, our yellows, visors and things. So, it would have looked quite scary to him. So got the rich tea biscuits out, and luckily they did the job.
It was purely by chance that you had those?
Yeah, no, it's not a standard piece of equipment we take on the boat. We've got loads of equipment for different situations, all eventualities, but it turned out it was some biscuits that saved the day.
Thankfully, this border collie was brought to safety. The RNLI wants anyone walking their dog near a cliff to ensure the animal is on a lead. For Max, cliffs are now off limits. Will he be a bit more careful, do you think, Max?
Probably not. Even running around the woods and that, he runs into trees and everything, so yeah, brilliant, yeah. He is, he just wants to go in the sea now, like, he never learns.
Hey, Maxie.
After his rescue, Janice says Max is enjoying the attention. A local butcher has given him bones and steak, and there's even been suggestions of him getting his own Instagram account. For now, Max is just happy to show his appreciation, shaking off the whole ordeal. James Dunham, ITV News, New Haven.
Oh, he is beautiful. I definitely follow him. What a lovely boy he is, and so glad that he's safe. And also, he was safe before last night because it was so cold last night. Holly's here now. It really was a chilly one.
It was another very cold night, wasn't it? Very beautiful, of course. We can take a look at just how beautiful it was because this was the scene in Leybourne near Maidstone. Now, it doesn't look
lovely.
Isn't it beautiful? It doesn't look frosty here, but it probably fell to about -1. Our official lowest temperature last night was -2.8 in Goudhurst, but I know some places picking up sort of -4s, -5s. So yeah, a nippy old start, but it led to a bit of an interesting conversation this morning because one of our colleagues came in, they were working on GMB, not you obviously, Amanda, but working on the early shift, came in at 4 o'clock and they said they didn't have to de-ice their car. And yet, everyone coming in at 8 or 9 o'clock did. So my question to you is, when do you think you get the lowest temperature? So when are you most likely to see a frost?
Oh, see, I would have thought about midnight, because Mad Dogs and Englishmen out in the midday sun.
Makes sense.
So the opposite, midnight.
Yeah.
It's got to be particularly cold.
It's a reasonable answer. What would you
I
say?
say when I normally get into work at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's obviously the coldest, because this morning it was -5, so obviously then.
It feels it.
Yes. Well, do you know, it's totally counterintuitive, I think, but given a perfectly clear night, light winds, nothing else affecting the temperature, you'll get your lowest value about half an hour after sunrise.
Oh, good.
Which is a bit odd. So temperature continues to escape all night, it continues going out into the atmosphere, and it's not until the sun is high enough into the sky to give us enough energy to counteract that heat loss that it actually starts to get warmer. So there you go.
Well, thank you for that, Holly. So the message there, stay in bed till after sunrise. Anyway, here she is with all the weather forecast.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
A lovely bright start for many of us this morning, but cloud tended to thicken, and that's going to be a bit of a theme as we head through this weekend into the beginning of next week as well. So often quite cloudy, but remaining settled, a lot of dry weather in store. By night, though, any frost becoming much more patchy due to that increase in cloud. So the bigger picture shows high pressure dominating. You can see our jet stream as well looping to the north. That allows the high to stay in place, keeping the weather quite quiet, but as I say, with probably some largish amounts of cloud. But this high stays in charge probably until at least the middle of next week, I should think. So out there at the moment, well, probably quite a bit of cloud for most of us, and that stays with us through a lot of the night. Having said that, you could see some clearer spells, and that could allow a few mist and fog patches. It could allow a bit of frost, but I think on balance, most of us see temperatures remaining a little above freezing. Into tomorrow then, quite a bit of cloud with us. As I say, slightly tricky cloud detail to forecast. You may well see some sunny spells coming through at times, but on balance, this northwesterly continues to draw in a reasonable amount of clouds. Temperature-wise, probably not too dissimilar to today's values. Up next then, our high tide times. We've got Dover at 1:30 in the morning and 1:40 as we head into the afternoon. And finally, the outlook. Well, I know this doesn't look very exciting, does it? I was a bit torn as to whether to put cloudy symbols or maybe a few sunny spells symbols on there, but I think on balance, quite large amounts of clouds, but you could see some sunshine coming through at times as well. You'll notice the winds stay fairly light, temperature's not doing anything very exciting, and by night, any frost will be pretty patchy as well. Pretty quiet.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Well, in just a moment, it's the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
And Andrew, he'll bring you your late news at the later time of just before 11, so do stay up for that. For now, though, from all the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely evening and a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.